Chloe showed up at my apartment door, right as I was getting home from work. My brain was still swimming in lines of code, and for a second, I didn't recognize the woman with the wild hair. Ethan. Her voice was thick with tears, her eyes as red as a rabbit's. I instinctively fumbled for my keys, ready to unlock the door and make a run for it. "I'm such an idiot," she said, sniffling. "I've been secretly in love with you for 10 years. My keys hit the floor. The clang was deafening in the quiet hallway. "What did you say?" I bent over to pick them up, my head feeling a little light. The motion sensor light in the hallway clicked off, leaving us in darkness with nothing but the sound of her crying. 10 years, she repeated. "Since middle school." I straightened up, using my phone screen to see her face. Her makeup wasn't smudged, no mascara running. She cried with real technique. "Last month," I said slowly, "you told me you'd rather date Mrs. Gable's poodle from downstairs." She choked on a sob. That was just because I was mad." The light flickered back on. I saw her fingers twisting the hem of her shirt, her knuckles white. "Okay," I said, turning to unlock my door. As the lock clicked, she spoke again behind me. "That's it." I looked back at her. "What else? You wanted to set off some fireworks." Her eyes got redder. This time, less like a rabbit, more like a vampire. "Ethan, you have no heart." The door slammed in my face, the force of it making every motion sensor light in the hallway flash on. I stood in my entryway, dazed, the smell of yesterday's takeout hanging in the air. My phone buzzed. It was Chloe. "Asshole." I put my phone down and went to the kitchen to find something to eat. The fridge held half a bottle of sriracha and a single, lonely egg. I held the egg for a moment. Chloe's favorite was sunny side up with a runny yolk. 2. I woke up painfully early. My eyes were open at 6, staring at the ceiling, counting sheep. I just hit 100 when my phone rang. Chloe had sent a picture of the breakfast burrito cart downstairs. "Breakfast burrito, extra egg." I rolled over and shoved the phone under my pillow. 10 minutes later, I was standing in front of the cart. "Breakfast burrito, extra egg." The guy behind the counter worked efficiently. "Chloe was just here. You two just miss each other." I stared at the tortilla on the griddle. "Which way did she go?" "That way," he said, cracking an egg. She was bawling her eyes out. "You do something to her." I tapped my phone to pay, adding enough for 2. She did something to me. The guy looked confused, but I was already gone, burrito in hand. Chloe was sitting on a bench in the complex courtyard, the burrito untouched on her lap. I sat down next to her and started eating mine. 10 years, I said after swallowing the first bite. "In middle school, you put a caterpillar in my pencil case." She kept her head down, fiddling with the wrapper. "I was trying to get your attention." "High school, you posted my crush's letter to me on the school bulletin board." "I was worried you'd get distracted from your studies." "College, you deleted my senior thesis." She stalled on that one, finally sputtering. My hand slipped. I finished the last bite and wiped my hands. "Chloe, if you're going to lie, at least make it believable." She snapped her head up, eyes red again. This time it looked real. 3. I brought Chloe with me to the office to work on the weekend. She sat at the desk next to mine, poking the little cactus on my monitor stand. "Your company makes you work on weekends?" "We have a project launch." She was quiet for 5 minutes. "Ethan, do you remember our junior year of high school?" My fingers didn't stop typing. "The time you locked me on the roof?" "It was my birthday," she said, her voice rising. "I wanted to watch the stars with you. And then it started raining. But I gave you my umbrella, didn't I? That umbrella had a hole in it." She went quiet again. A coworker walked by and shot me a look, waggling his eyebrows. I kicked my chair back, rolling a foot away. "What are you doing?" she glared at me. "Stay away from me. You're killing my productivity." She actually moved her chair to the corner of the cubicle. Her back was to me, her shoulders slumped. I stared at the code on my screen, but for 10 minutes, I didn't type a single character. I got up, went to the break room, and made 2 cups of coffee. When I handed one to her, her eyes lit up for a second. "Is there sugar?" "Nope," I said, sipping mine. "It's the cheap instant stuff the office provides." She just said, "Oh," and took small sips. "Ethan," she said suddenly, "you actually remembered it was my birthday?" I choked on my coffee. 4. It was raining when we left the office. I was digging through my bag when Chloe pulled an umbrella out of hers. "Here, use mine." I looked at the brand new umbrella in her hand. "It doesn't have a hole," she added in a small voice. We huddled under it on the way to the subway station. The scent of her perfume kept wafting into my nose. It used to be something fruity, like candy, but she'd changed it to something else that gave me a headache. You changed your perfume? Oh, yeah. She seemed a little flustered. Just last week. I don't like it. She pinched my arm. You have terrible taste. When we got to the station, she closed the umbrella and noticed the entire left side of my shirt was soaked. Are you an idiot? Why didn't you stand closer to the middle? There wasn't enough room. I swiped my transit card and went through the turnstile. She hurried after me. You totally did that on purpose. The train was packed. She was pressed against my back as she talked. Her warm breath tickled my neck. I shuffled forward half a step. Why are you moving away? She grabbed the strap of my backpack. Is a 10-year crush worth half a step back? The old lady sitting nearby was giving us a very pointed look. Chloe, I said, turning around. If you've had a crush on me for 10 years, how come you didn't say anything when I got dumped 2 years ago? Her expression froze. Well, I didn't want to bother you while you were sad. You crashed at my place for 3 days, we ordered pizza, and you seemed happier than you do on Christmas. The train pulled into a station, and a wave of people pushed through. She was shoved against me, her body flush with mine. I couldn't tell whose heartbeat was hammering. That's because her voice was muffled against my chest. You were finally single. 5. On Sunday afternoon, Chloe knocked on my door again. She was holding a laptop and a bag of snacks. Need to borrow your place to finish a proposal. She made herself at home on my couch, propping her feet up on a coffee table. I went back to debugging my code. The only sounds in the room were crunching on potato chips and the clicking of my keyboard. Ethan, she said suddenly, do you remember the summer after freshman year of college? Nope. I haven't even said what it was. Every time you start a sentence like that, it's bad news. She threw a chip at me. It bounced off my monitor. Your mom told me to keep an eye on you. Make sure you don't stay cooped up all the time. My mom just saw me last week. Then it was the week before that. She padded over barefoot and leaned on the back of my chair. Come on, watch a movie with me. I could smell the scent in her hair. Still the new perfume. You haven't changed your perfume? She froze for a second, then retreated to the couch. Why would I change it? It's not like I'm wearing it for you. In the end, I watched the movie with her. It was a horror movie. She spent the whole time hiding her face in my arm. I pushed her head away. 10 years ago, you watched The Grudge and laughed your head off. So, people's fears can change, you know. Her hands were ice cold, gripping my arm for dear life. When the ghost appeared on screen, I felt her whole body tremble. Nice acting, I commented. She pinched my side hard. 6. The movie ended after dark. She refused to leave, insisting on ordering delivery. Order it yourself. I tossed her my phone and went to the balcony to answer a work email. When I came back, I heard her on the phone. It's almost done, maybe another week. She saw me and abruptly hung up. Who was that? I asked, picking up my phone. My mom. Her voice was a little too loud, asking when I'm coming home. I glanced at my call log. Her mom wasn't in the recent calls. The food arrived, and she eagerly set the table. She painstakingly picked every piece of cilantro I hated out of my dish. Why the sudden kindness? I've always been kind, excuse you. She served me some food, her eyes darting away from mine. So, Ethan, what do you think of me? You can eat, you can sleep, and you're surprisingly strong. Be serious. I put down my chopsticks. Chloe, what are you really up to? She looked down and shoveled rice in her mouth, mumbling just, building connection. We've known each other for 20 years, I said, looking straight at her. What's there left to build? Her phone kept vibrating on the table, the screen lighting up repeatedly. Finally, she just turned it off. So annoying, she said. So much work, even on a weekend. I watched the tips of her ears turn red. Chloe showed up again on Monday morning. She was standing at my door with coffee and a bag of bagels. I was in the neighborhood. Her hair was a mess, and she clearly hadn't gotten enough sleep. The subway ride from her apartment to mine takes 40 minutes. What's the excuse today? I asked, taking a coffee. I'm trying to win you over, she said, full of confidence. A 10-year crush deserves some effort, don't you think? I nearly choked on my coffee. She followed me onto the subway, yawning the entire way. If you're tired, just go home and sleep. Nope, she said, rubbing her eyes. What if some other girl tries to hit on you? I ignored her and opened my phone to check my email. She leaned in to look at my screen, her breath warm on my hand. Back up. So stingy, she pouted, but she moved away. As we were leaving the station, her shoelace came undone, and she bent down to tie it. The crowd flowed around her like she was a stubborn rock in a stream. I stood and waited. When she finished and looked up, she saw me waiting, and her eyes curved into a smile. Worried I'd get lost. Worried you'd trip and sue someone. She skipped to catch up, grabbing the strap of my backpack. Ethan, slow down. I slowed my pace. When we got to my office building, she shoved a paper bag into my hands. Lunch. Don't order takeout. I opened it and saw a packed lunch container. You made this. I bought it, she said, then turned and ran. Send me a picture when you're done. A coworker, I rode the elevator with glanced curiously at the bag. Girlfriend. Nope. The lunch was, frankly, mediocre. The rice was a little hard. I ate all of it anyway, and sent her a picture of the empty container. She replied instantly. I'll make it for you tomorrow. I stared at the exclamation point and felt a throbbing in my temples. The lunch was burnt. I stared at the blackened pieces of chicken, not sure where to even begin. Chloe sat across from me, watching me with hopeful eyes. Try a bite. I reluctantly picked up the smallest piece. How is it? I can tell it was chicken. She snatched the fork, tried it herself, and her face fell. Don't eat it, she said, reaching for the container. Let's just order something. I held the container down. It's a shame to waste food. As I slowly finished the lunch, her eyes got progressively redder. Ethan, you're actually... My phone rang. An emergency project meeting. You should head home, I told her. She didn't move. When I got to the elevator, I looked back. She was still standing there, staring at the empty lunch container. The meeting ran until 9 at night. When I got out, I had 3 missed calls from her. The last text read, I'm downstairs at your office. It was raining. She was crouched by the entrance like a stray cat. When she saw me, she stood up, but her legs had fallen asleep, and she stumbled. I steadied her. I forgot to give you back your container, she said. She was holding the washed and dry container. That's why you're here. Her wet hair was plastered to her face, her makeup slightly smudged. And also, her voice was barely a whisper. I wanted to see you. The rain was loud. I almost didn't hear her. I took her to a 24/7 diner. The warmth of a cheeseburger deluxe slowly brought the color back to her pale face. Ethan, she said, warming her hands on a mug of coffee. You're so good to me. I snapped a plastic fork in half. If you starve to death, I could be held criminally liable. She kicked my shin under the table, but not hard. When the food came, she picked the fries off her plate and put them on mine. What for? To make up for today's culinary disaster. I watched the side of her face as she ate her burger. It reminded me of middle school, when she used to steal the chicken nuggets from my lunch. You've changed, I said. So, Ethan, what do you think of me? You can eat, you can sleep, and you're surprisingly strong. Be serious. I put down my chopsticks. Chloe, what are you really up to? She looked down and shoveled rice in her mouth, mumbling just, building connection. We've known each other for 20 years, I said, looking straight at her. What's there left to build? Her phone kept vibrating on the table, the screen lighting up repeatedly. Finally, she just turned it off. So annoying, she said. So much work, even on a weekend. I watched the tips of her ears turn red. Chloe showed up again on Monday morning. She was standing at my door with coffee and a bag of bagels. I was in the neighborhood. Her hair was a mess, and she clearly hadn't gotten enough sleep. The subway ride from her apartment to mine takes 40 minutes. What's the excuse today? I asked, taking a coffee. I'm trying to win you over, she said, full of confidence. A 10-year crush deserves some effort, don't you think? I nearly choked on my coffee. She followed me onto the subway, yawning the entire way. If you're tired, just go home and sleep. Nope, she said, rubbing her eyes. What if some other girl tries to hit on you? I ignored her and opened my phone to check my email. She leaned in to look at my screen, her breath warm on my hand. Back up. So stingy, she pouted, but she moved away. As we were leaving the station, her shoelace came undone, and she bent down to tie it. The crowd flowed around her like she was a stubborn rock in a stream. I stood and waited. When she finished and looked up, she saw me waiting, and her eyes curved into a smile. Worried I'd get lost. Worried you'd trip and sue someone. She skipped to catch up, grabbing the strap of my backpack. Ethan, slow down. I slowed my pace. When we got to my office building, she shoved a paper bag into my hands. Lunch. Don't order takeout. I opened it and saw a packed lunch container. You made this. I bought it, she said, then turned and ran. Send me a picture when you're done. A coworker, I rode the elevator with glanced curiously at the bag. Girlfriend. Nope. The lunch was, frankly, mediocre. The rice was a little hard. I ate all of it anyway, and sent her a picture of the empty container. She replied instantly. I'll make it for you tomorrow. I stared at the exclamation point and felt a throbbing in my temples. The lunch was burnt. I stared at the blackened pieces of chicken, not sure where to even begin. Chloe sat across from me, watching me with hopeful eyes. Try a bite. I reluctantly picked up the smallest piece. How is it? I can tell it was chicken. She snatched the fork, tried it herself, and her face fell. Don't eat it, she said, reaching for the container. Let's just order something. I held the container down. It's a shame to waste food. As I slowly finished the lunch, her eyes got progressively redder. Ethan, you're actually... My phone rang. An emergency project meeting. You should head home, I told her. She didn't move. When I got to the elevator, I looked back. She was still standing there, staring at the empty lunch container. The meeting ran until 9 at night. When I got out, I had 3 missed calls from her. The last text read, I'm downstairs at your office. It was raining. She was crouched by the entrance like a stray cat. When she saw me, she stood up, but her legs had fallen asleep, and she stumbled. I steadied her. I forgot to give you back your container, she said. She was holding the washed and dried container. That's why you're here. Her wet hair was plastered to her face, her makeup slightly smudged. And also, her voice was barely a whisper. I want to see you. The rain was loud. I almost didn't hear her. I took her to a 24/7 diner. The warmth of a cheeseburger deluxe slowly brought the color back to her pale face. Ethan, she said, warming her hands on a mug of coffee. You're so good to me. I snapped a plastic fork in half. If you starve to death, I could be held criminally liable. She kicked my shin under the table, but not hard. When the food came, she picked the fries off her plate and put them on mine. What for? To make up for today's culinary disaster. I watched the side of her face as she ate her burger. It reminded me of middle school when she used to steal the chicken nuggets from my lunch. You've changed, I said. You used to just steal mine. Her fork paused midair. She didn't look up. People change. The rain had stopped by the time we left. The streetlights made the puddles on the sidewalk gleam. She deliberately stomped in a puddle, splashing water on my pants. Chloe, here. She stood up straight, her eyes sparkling as she looked at me. I reached out and wiped a smudge of ketchup from the corner of her mouth. Her entire body went rigid. She even stopped breathing. Let's go. I walked a few steps before realizing she wasn't following. I turned back and saw her still standing there, her hand touching the corner of her mouth. Are you broken? She ran over and grabbed my hand. Ethan, her voice was trembling. Are we? I pulled my hand away. The Uber's here. In the car, she kept sneaking glances at me. I pretended to look out the window, but I was really watching her reflection in the glass. My computer crashed. I borrowed Chloe's tablet to work on a proposal. She handed it over without a second thought and went to take a shower. I opened a browser to send a file to myself and saw she was still logged into her messages. The pin group chat was named Operation Ethan. The latest message, 1 week left on the bet. You can do it, Chloe. I clicked on the chat history. I scrolled up, reading the conversation between her and her best friend, Sophie. $1,000 says you can't get Ethan to confess his love in a month. Don't worry. I'm an expert at faking devotion. Weren't you the one who said you'd rather die than fall for a block of wood like Ethan? A bit. As soon as he confesses, I'm out. The sound of the shower stopped. I closed the app, clearing the history. When Chloe came out, toweling her hair, I was working on the proposal. Is it working okay? She asked, leaning over my shoulder. I smelled the familiar scent of her body wash on her skin. It was the same one I used. Yeah, I said, leaning away slightly. Go dry your hair. She walked away humming, in a clearly good mood. I stared at the screen, the lines of code blurring into meaningless shapes. I thought about her red-rimmed eyes when she'd said 10 years. I thought about the way her hair stuck up when she tied her shoes. I thought about the burnt chicken she'd made. The drone of the hairdryer filled the apartment. I deleted the confession I had spent half the day writing. On Friday, Chloe asked me to a movie. This time it was a romance. She watched it in complete silence. When the credits rolled, her eyes were red. "What are you crying about?" I handed her a tissue. "It was so moving," she said, blowing her nose. The guy did so much for the girl, but never said a word. The house lights came up, revealing her slightly smudged makeup. I reached out to wipe under her eye. "It's waterproof foundation," she said quietly. "You can't wipe it off." "Then stop crying." She looked up at me. "Ethan, have you ever done something for someone without telling them?" "Yeah," I said, looking into her eyes. "Lots of things." I could practically hear her heart pounding. "Like what?" "Like right now, sitting through this terrible movie with you." She stomped on my foot and stormed off ahead of me. I followed behind, watching her ponytail swing back and forth. Outside the mall, the night air was cool. She crossed her arms and sneezed. I took off my jacket and handed it to her. "What for?" she glared. "I don't want to catch your cold." She took it and put it on. The sleeves were way too long for her. "Ethan," she said, hiding her hands inside the sleeves, "tomorrow's the weekend." "Yep. Where should we go?" "I have to work." "Oh," she said, burying her face in the jacket's collar. "Your jacket smells good. It's the same scent as my body wash." I was working. Chloe was in my office playing games on her phone with the sound on. "That's distracting." She pouted, turned off the sound, and started typing instead. I received a text from her, "Hungry," followed by "thirsty," and then "pay attention to me." I blocked her number. She shot up from the couch and marched over to my desk. "Ethan, I'm busy." She snatched my mouse. "You're clearly just browsing the internet." On the screen was the Sephora page I just opened. Women's perfume, the one she was wearing. "Who are you buying that for?" Her voice changed. "For you," I said, closing the tab. "To replace the one you're wearing. It's awful." She froze, her expression unreadable. You don't like this scent?" "No, it gives me a headache." She slowly let go of the mouse and retreated to the couch. She didn't say another word all afternoon. When we left, her eyes were red again, but this time she didn't make a sound. "Ethan," she said as we stood in the elevator, "I'm not coming tomorrow." "Okay." Her nails were digging into her palms. "Don't you have anything to say?" The elevator arrived, and the doors slid open. "Chloe," I said, "watching the floor numbers? Having fun with your game?" Her face went white. Chloe didn't show up on Monday. I kept staring at my phone. She hadn't even sent a good morning text. At lunch, I went to the coffee shop she always went to. She was sitting in a corner, across from her best friend, Sophie. "I think he knows." Chloe's voice was trembling. "No way," Sophie said, stirring her latte. "Your acting is flawless. But yesterday he asked me if I was having fun with my game." He was probably just saying it. What does a clueless guy like Ethan know? Chloe looked down, shredding a napkin. "I don't want to do this anymore." "Don't be silly. It's just a few more days. It's $1,000. It's not about the money." Sophie leaned in. "Don't tell me you actually fell for him." Chloe didn't answer. I pushed open the glass door, and the bell above it tinkled. She saw me and shot to her feet. Coffee sloshed all over the table. "What a coincidence," I said. Sophie's expression was stiff. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "Getting coffee." I walked to the counter. As I ordered, I heard Sophie whisper, "See? It doesn't even care about you." Chloe grabbed her bag and walked out, knocking over a chair without bothering to pick it up. I walked outside with my coffee, but she was already gone. Sophie followed me out. "Ethan, Chloe's been in a bad mood lately." "I can see that. Aren't you even a little concerned about her?" I looked her straight in the eye. "How would you like me to be concerned?" She was speechless. I found Chloe that evening in the park feeding stray cats. She was crouched on the ground, a small, hunched-over figure. "They have more of a conscience than you do," she said without turning around. "Did you buy them canned food?" "I did." She spun around, her eyes red again. "I treat them better than you treat me." A cat rubbed against her leg, and a tear fell onto its fur. I handed her a tissue. "Stop crying. The cat thinks you're too salty." She let out a watery laugh, then immediately put her stern face back on. "What are you doing here? You forgot to take back your lunch container." She looked at my empty hands. "Liar." The cats ran off, leaving the two of us alone. The park bench was old and creaked when we sat down. "Ethan," she said, staring at the tips of her shoes. What if? What if what? What if I wasn't so messed up? Would you like me? The streetlights were dim, casting her profile in shadow. I reached out and tucked a stray piece of hair behind her ear. She flinched. You're already plenty messed up, I said. Her eyes lit up for a second, then dimmed again. Yeah, I guess so. My company had a team-building event, and we could bring a guest. Chloe showed up uninvited, clearly dressed to impress. I'm his sister, she told my coworkers. I looked at her. Cousin. A childhood friend is closer than a cousin, she said, linking her arm through mine. My colleagues started teasing us, and she just beamed. We played Pictionary. She drew, I guessed. We got every single one right. What chemistry! Everyone cheered. She shot me a triumphant wink. The last activity was a three-legged race. She tied her legs together so tightly I lost circulation. Don't want to fall, she said, as if it were the most logical thing in the world. She practically hung on me the entire race. Chloe, I whispered, we're doing this on purpose. Yep, she admitted without hesitation. We won. The prize was an ugly stuffed doll, which she hugged like it was a treasure. It looks like you, she said. It looks like you. She kicked my shin. A colleague slapped me on the back. So, when's the wedding? She blushed and didn't say anything. I looked across the field and saw Sophie, staring down at her phone. When I went to the restroom, I heard voices from one of the stalls. It was Sophie. I think Chloe's in too deep. The bet, she stopped caring about that ages ago. Now she's cooking for him every day. I know, but Ethan's side of things. I pushed the main door open, and the voices stopped. When I got back to our table, Chloe was doing karaoke. She was painfully off-key. My coworkers looked like they were in agony. I was the only one listening intently. She was singing, I Will Always Love You. During the chorus, she kept looking at me. And when she got to that line, her voice trembled. No one noticed, except me. I picked up my beer and took a long drink. It tasted bitter. After she finished, she ran over and sat next to me, her palms sweating. Was I terrible? Terrible. Her face fell. But audible, I added. Her eyes lit up again, like they were filled with stars. It started raining as the party broke up. Sophie pulled Chloe aside to talk. I waited under the awning. The rain fell harder. When Chloe came back, her expression was strange. What's wrong? Nothing. She forced a smile. Let's go home. She was quiet in the Uber, just staring out the window. When we got to her apartment building, she didn't get out. Ethan, she said, her voice tiny. What do you think of me? You've never given me a straight answer. I looked at her. Her eyelashes were trembling. Chloe. Her phone rang. It was Sophie. She turned it off. I'm the kind of person, she continued, who's dramatic and annoying and a liar. Yep. But when it comes to you, the driver cleared his throat. We're here. You getting out? She took a deep breath and opened the door. I grabbed her wrist. Chloe. She looked back at me, tears welling in her eyes. I'll give you an answer tomorrow, I said. She stared for a moment, nodded, then turned and ran inside. I took the day off. I cleaned my apartment, gathering all the things Chloe had left behind. A hair clip, a hair tie, half a tube of lipstick, and that ugly doll. I took a picture and sent it to her. Come get your stuff. She replied instantly. What does that mean? Exactly what it says. Are you breaking up with me? I didn't reply. A minute later, she called. I didn't answer. The doorbell rang. I opened it. She was standing there, her face pale. Why? Her voice was hoarse. I stepped aside to let her in. Her things were laid out on a coffee table. She stared at the little pile of clutter, and tears started to fall. Is it because of the bet? She asked. Isn't that enough? She shook her head. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I watched her. Tell me, Chloe. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Take your things and go, I said, turning to look out the window. She didn't move. I could hear her sniffling. Ethan, she said, if I told you. Don't. I cut her off. It was too late for that now. She left. She gathered her things in her arms and walked out without looking back. The door closed softly behind her. I stood in the middle of the living room, and the apartment felt huge and empty. My phone buzzed. It was Sophie. Chloe's a wreck. Are you happy now? I didn't answer. I just deleted the conversation. That night, I went to the diner we always went to. The owner saw me. Where's Chloe? Not here. He added an extra scoop of fries to my plate. You two fight? She was in here yesterday talking about you. What did she say? Said she was finally going to win you over. I put down my fork. Suddenly, the food had no taste. On the way home, I saw her sitting on the swings in the complex courtyard. She was hugging that ugly doll and crying. I walked over, my shadow falling over her. She looked up, her eyes swollen. I forgot the doll, she choked out. I knelt, so we were at eye level. Chloe, I said, you win. She stared at me, confused. What? What do you mean? I surrender. Her eyes slowly widened. You. I kissed her. The swing swayed gently, like a heartbeat. She moved in with me after that. She brought the ugly doll with her. You've liked me for a long time, she said one day while hanging up her clothes. Yep. Since when? Since you put that caterpillar in my pencil case. She threw a hanger at me. You're sick. I caught it. Takes one to know one. Sophie came by once. They argued downstairs. Are you serious about this? Sophie's voice was loud. It was always serious. Chloe's was louder. I watched from the balcony as Chloe sent Sophie $1,000 on Venmo. The bet's off. I'll pay you double. Sophie left and never contacted her again. When Chloe came upstairs, her eyes were red. I lost my best friend. You still have me. She threw herself into my arms, smearing tears and snot on my shirt. Ethan, actually, what? The bet was just an excuse. I wanted to chase after you for a long time. I wiped her tears. I know. How did you know? You're a terrible actress. She bit my shoulder, but not hard. Asshole. Yep. It started raining outside. We kissed on the couch. The ugly doll fell to the floor, and neither of us bothered to pick it up.